So welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you all here. Dominic, Leela, Don, Anon, Manny, welcome, welcome. I just got a little bit of sad news just before the meeting. Sailor Bob passed away a couple hours ago. And he was close to 100 years old, Sailor Bob. And his was one of the first non-duality books I ever bought. The title was What's Wrong with Right Now, Unless You Think About It. So maybe we can just spend a moment in tribute to Sailor Bob, who hugely popular non-duality teachers, one of the original guys that I think he's been doing it since the 70s. And let's just look at the title of his book, What's Wrong with Right Now, right? What's wrong with just this? If you don't go to thought.
That was one of my favorite books too, initially.
Right.
Yeah, because it just pointed out that thought can become the issue of a problem within
Have a
my
text
mind.
message from Sean.
Yeah, it's kind of a stunner that something so simple as what's wrong with this moment, unless you think about it, like, oh, well, what if I don't go to thought right now? Can I find a problem?
Right.
Or do I need to? It sort of takes away the driver when you really inspect it.
Yeah.
I'd like to add too. I also read that book, which was it really had a lot of impact, and I've watched him over the years, and I think one of the things that impressed me about Sailor Bob was there was a degree of humility. He didn't try to, even though he's well known, he did not try to be a superstar or present himself like that. His presentations often were just him speaking from what was true for him. And I think, I always appreciated him as not only a teacher, but just as a human being who shared his own journey.
I got the sense of him, the humility that he had, just being a regular person. That's what just a regular person. And when he used to talk about full stop,
Yeah, I
that
love that.
really, it kind of jolts you to the present moment. Just even that, it's kind of a pointer to that. Just be here. And he had about a 45-minute uh, thing that he talked about, and then he took questions afterwards. That's what he generally did in person when I saw him. But other than that, uh, he was really, the books are really great too. I mean, he went into more things than what he talked about in person in the books. So
What was
I
it
just,
like sitting with him, Manny, in person, his energy?
his energy was just, it was a normal person, just a regular, uh, no errors, no, no, he didn't exude any, like some speakers will, they have to be up there in front of the meeting and stuff like this. He was in one of the bookstores I saw him in, and before that was this other meeting, and we talked about this a little bit. John Wheeler was at the desk collecting donations, and kind of sponsored him being there at the place, and And eh, I don't think anybody knew because I was right next, I was touching him right next to him, waiting in line. That's how humble he was. He didn't even go in the place while they were setting up. He waited in line behind me to see him, to go into place. And that was just, I'd never seen that before, that kind of a thing. And
Yeah,
did,
well, it's a good thing you recognized him. Otherwise, you could have turned around and said, "Oh, I hope the speaker is good to him," and he'd say, "Yeah, me too."
well, I probably said something, aren't you supposed to be in there? And anyway,
Well, that's one of the things that Leela and I talk about quite often with a lot of passion is the ordinariness of this. Like
yeah.
it's almost like we're on a quest to demystify what already is.
I love talking about the ordinariness and the vulnerability that and the fragility that remains. I was trying to get rid of that as a seeker. What was Sailor Bob's quote? His book title? What was it?
What's wrong with right now unless you think about it?
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
Well, as Jenny says, it's too simple. It's too easy because you go like, well, it couldn't be that simple. Wait, I can't have a problem unless I go to thought.
Yeah.
Hi, Indira. Welcome.
You know how, Michael, you'll talk about the word already and how important that was for you. And looking back at Sailor Bob, the phrase full stop is so important because it was a reminder that the mind will start to take this and begin to create stories about it and concepts about it. And that full stop just stops you right there. It's right, it's so simple. And that full stop, I always felt was such a good reminder of uh, noticing that you didn't need to let the mind just get into all of its concepts about it. It's just what is, full stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too simple. Too simple. That I'm telling you, that
Yeah.
is Jenny's his her cry, her battle cry these days is too simple. It's too easy. Because Harvey, that goes with already, right? If it's
Yeah.
already, even
Yeah.
calling it simple is like too much.
Yes. Yes. And I've always felt when I was reading his books and hearing him and on videos that full stop was the one thing that I always would resonate with. It was a powerful reminder of just right here, right now.
Mhm.
I love all is well too. Yeah, from uh, uh, I studied with a teacher. Nobody hardly knows about him. It was Vernon Howard
Oh
was
yeah.
his name.
Oh, what a character. Vernon Howard. What a guy.
You heard of
And
him?
he,
Oh, I studied him. I watched his
Really?
videos. Oh, what a character.
and
Yeah.
his student Guy Finley.
Yes, yeah. And
And
he's a
I know,
character now too. Gee,
yep.
he's so emotional. But I was with him, I moved up there for 10 years before he died in 92. And after that, I went to looking around, studied with Eckhart Tolle and all the rest of them after that.
Yeah. That's
But
what we seekers did is seek. And it couldn't like already can't be heard until it's heard.
yeah, what I remember though to going to meetings. We used to have meetings 4 times a week, plus banquets. People from Ojai would come down to Boulder City, Nevada. That's where it was. It
Yeah.
was a New Life Foundation.
Yeah.
And Desi Arnaz Jr. was there, and he married Amy, that was a ballerina, and the dance girls that were doing things.
Wow.
And it was really a wholesome type atmosphere. And he really taught practical things that helped me get straightened out on the practical business type of just being a decent human being. That's what it was about mainly.
Let me,
And
let
but
me,
it, yeah,
oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
man. I just wanted to jump in, Manny, and explain who Vernon Howard was. He, I don't even know how to describe him. Kind of a philosopher, but non-dual, and he was so compelling because he would say, you know what your problem is, right? That's how he talked, Manny. You know what your problem is? You just can't leave the thoughts alone. You know, it was he had a very how would you describe his style, Manny?
It was fierce at times, and at other times was very gentle. And at the end of the talks, he would speak of the higher realm. I wouldn't call him a non-dual teacher
Mm-hmm.
because he believed in right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He believed in the opposites, and that was just pretty much his programming.
Uh-huh.
But he also understood the he studied a lot of other people, Krishnamurti and
Yeah.
Gurdjieff and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
But I
So, oh, sorry.
he was like a father to me because
Uh,
I didn't know what was going on. I had just gotten through a marriage, a divorce,
mm-hmm.
and so I moved to Boulder City from Los Angeles
Mm,
to study with him, and I just went there, and there was about 60 of us there initially, and then there was a few more after that.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, the thing is, though, about going to other teachers, that can go on, and there's nothing wrong with that. I did it. I sat with Rupert Spira and Eckhart Tolle 5 times. He was actually, Eckhart was here at UCLA one time. It was a big deal to get a
yeah,
ticket and go see him. And that can go on for even decades here.
yep.
But eventually, after you've sort of looked outside you as much as you can, and you just can't read another book, um, you just can't do it. You're just tired of chasing the rabbit and almost like in exhaustion, right, Leela? You're just broke. You're just like, I fucking don't have a clue.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like losing the game. It was complete exhaustion, utter hopelessness, and despair. I knew that I had lost.
Mm.
And then it felt like the clouds parted
Mm.
and I heard the angels sing in a way. Just because the utter futility gave me no choice. And with no choice, um, if you really have no choice, this isn't so bad because you don't have another option.
I think that's what's necessary. It is to get down to the powerlessness. I'm done. And then you start looking at yourself. Then at least with me, I was thinking everything it had to be, there was something outside of me that I had to grasp and everything would be fine. But then afterwards, you realize that no, it was all about me. It was already here. It was never not present. And but I never got that in and being around any teacher.
Mhm.
It's almost like you had to be in so much pain that you asked for help from outside of you, not outside of who I am, but to look to see the very essence of what's running this show here.
Yeah. Well, Eckhart tells in the beginning of his book, remember, Manny, the story of the beggar who's begging for money? and he's sitting on a bucket.
Mm.
And the traveler says, "Well, have you looked in the bucket you're sitting on?" And he's like, "No,
Yeah.
what for?" "Well, take a look." And he looks inside, and of course, there's gold in the bucket.
Yes.
He was sitting
Yeah.
on it the whole time, but he didn't know it, so he was looking outside him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leela, what do you mean by no choice? If you could just talk about that for a moment.
Oh, sure. So eventually I was like, okay, I'm not going to find it in knowledge or a book or a YouTube video, because that started to seem very futile. And I was like, well, what else is there? So I started to place attention on the sensescapes as much as possible and reorienting to that, which was difficult because I was so dissociated, um, as a pattern, a habit. It was frustrating because there was a magnetic pull back to the mind over and over and over.
Mm.
And then there was watching that whole mechanism. The thoughts would come up, why can't I just be in the body? Why do I keep going to the mind? Like I can't control it. It just does what it wants to do, you know. And there was a calming down, and I could be notice the body more, sensations or the visual field or sounds, whatever I was focusing on. Um, I was able to spend more time there, and the thoughts would just go as usual. And I saw that I wasn't thinking them. Like it just became obvious. And I was seeing thoughts for thoughts, like the nature of them, that they're ephemeral, fleeting, symbolic. They're twice removed reflections of whatever they're pointing to. Um, and then I heard the claiming voice, the one that claimed to witness all the thoughts. And I realized that that was a thought.
Mm.
And that was it. It was and that can be terrifying to see, you know, the body can react. There can be visceral terror, you know, at times, falling feeling. Um, yeah, you just see that no one's running the show. There's no driver, no entity. That the entity is an imagined. Uh, it's a thought. That's all it is. It's not an entity. It's like believing in Santa Claus, you know. We idolize ourselves.
As you're talking, Leela, I can't help but see a parallel with someone who's trying to get off drugs. You know, there's this cycle, almost an addiction of a pattern, a way of being, and then a confrontation of I can't do that anymore. I've got to let go of that history, that process, that way of being. So just an
Yeah.
observation along the way.
Yeah, addiction to the idea of control, which doesn't exist. And of course, an identification with that. So giving it sort of a persona and a power of agency. Of course, nobody does that. It's just part of nature. It just happens naturally. It's just a part of being a human. Um, but in the seeking, towards the end, when the seeking fell, I said, I can't do this anymore. And I heard it. I finally heard myself say that. It was the truest thing I had ever heard, and there was no coming back from it. I knew that I couldn't because I wasn't. So it doesn't seeing this doesn't give us what we want. It it shows that there's no one to want anything. And that wanting is as valid as anything else. you know. So everything becomes an even expression. Um, choiceless always, personless, you know. Hey, Addie.
Yay, the Addy show.
I'm watching a guy scrape a car, and he's like making sure he can get the car open for his wife before he does anything else. But I'll see it.
In regards to what you said, Manny, about eventually realizing it wasn't out there,
Mhm.
but you turned within. Um, Leela said a beautiful quote, and I was like, wow. She said, you can't have the truth because you are it.
Mhm. And we just don't believe it. See, we don't grok it. We don't understand that that's the case. If we understood that fully, the search would end. But it's just, uh, we're so conditioned to and hardwired to believe in what we've been programmed to believe, and to let go of that. It, it's almost like we have to, like an addict or somebody that's obsessed over something, have to hit our bottom, and be completely vulnerable to giving up, just giving up, and you're on the ground, and you're not getting up. You're not getting up this time. Instead, a thought will come up and say, "Oh, well, let me try this." That last thing is gone, and then finally you start recognizing that it's been here all along.
Mhm.
It's
So one thing I can recommend, right? We talked about addictions. Well, funny enough, addictions work both ways, right? You could also be addicted to the present moment, to what's here without a thought. The more you notice it, the more you notice it. And the more you notice, the more you notice, and like that. And so one way is to take a quote that you really like, just one. Like let's take Leela's, you can't have the truth because you are it. And what
yeah,
comes up for you when you hear that? Let's delve into the quote and see what is it pointing at. You can't have the truth because you are it.
You know, you can't be the truth because there's no you to begin with. So if I try to practice that, I am the truth. But then the way I practice it, there's got to be me. There's me, the separate you, that is now the truth. But I'm looking at it more from, no, there's no me to begin with. There is truth, like period. And there's no me.
Well, that would
What is
explain
truth?
why you can't get it, right? As a seeker, no one ever gets it because you're already it. That's the revelation.
Well, yeah, I'm still saying it's not you're already it. There's no you. There's no you to be already it.
Hmm.
There's only truth.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to say that for me at a certain point, it doesn't matter how I point, what I say. I can also say the exact opposite, and it makes just as much sense. So it's always both and neither, and that's hilarious. It gives you nothing. You never get to be correct.
yeah.
This is an art medium. Art doesn't have a correct, or right or wrong.
So even the word truth then is because we typically use the truth as
Yeah.
a polarity, truth versus non-truth. But I, and I know we use the word in language, but I often think that even that word loses its meaning because it's just a word. It's another placeholder. And I also want to say, Leela, I think you said before that some about everything is you correct me here, but everything is like an even expression. Did, and that resonates very deeply.
Mhm.
That sort of evenness in everything, that evenness, that equanimity, that's in everything, as everything, and through everything. That's very significant.
Oh yeah.
Although the word significant is
Yeah.
another
So
word.
the yeah, and there was an awkward time where I was like, I wanted to point, but I knew it was incorrect. So I was like, how do I say it? But it literally can't be said correctly. It can't be said wrong either. It's just so odd, you know. Um, but the evenness is, it's just when thoughts don't say should or shouldn't, right or wrong. And of course, there can be preferences. They can always arise freely, um, at any time. And those are free, and there's no should or shouldn't with that. It can be overwhelmingly even. Um,
Yeah, I think even when there is the appearance of preferences, that even there's equanimity in that. It's paradox, but it's just what shows up. So it appears like a preference of this versus that as a preference, but it's not really. It's just what's there, and hence the evenness, the equanimity of it's neither good nor bad or this or that. It just is.
yeah,
And
yeah.
even that's too many words.
That's the nuanced subtlety that
Yeah.
if you lean too far right or left, you won't get that subtlety. It's an angle, a certain angle, in between the lines. So tomorrow I could wake up with triggering thoughts and doom sensations, which happens. Um, and nothing says it shouldn't be that way,
Mm,
except for a thought.
beautiful.
That's
Yes.
great. When you said tomorrow, immediately my mind went into a story of tomorrow, and then it went into the. It's almost like mindfulness is in in the middle. That's what sometimes people use that to be in the middle of the two opposites, and even that is a place. And so the uncertainty is the emptiness that's full of the potential of the freshness of the essence of life that's always here, and yet it's trying to, the mind is thinking, well, that's not it. That's not quite it. And think some more.
Oh yeah.
Think some more about it. Let's get down to the real nitty gritty. And it's not possible.
So what I saw in hindsight was what we think is wanting self-liberation
Yeah.
and searching for it is actually avoiding it. That's what it
Yeah.
actually is. Because
Yeah.
we're like, I got to figure this out frantically. Um, and by doing that, we miss out on the immediacy and the vulnerability and futility of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's scary. We don't want to see it.
And it's always a step away from it, whatever we're doing.
But it can never not be it.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it's just playing like it's not it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what's pointed at here, we can all feel it. Like if we just sit here and notice what is that feeling I'm alive? Maybe we can close our eyes and just tune in to the feeling of existence without words.
So I was doing the just feeling existence with the eyes closed. Beautiful. It was like control. It was like what I have to, if I close my eyes and just feel existence, then my life would fall apart. The universe would fall apart because I have to be here to control it. I have to be, I have, I have to be here to control everything. That couch over there, I have to control that couch. If that makes sense, I got to control everything. My wife in the bedroom, I got to control her. Otherwise, what would happen? What would happen if I didn't control my son? When I went there, it was just like 100% control. This energy of like, got to control. God, that's who I am. I am control. And hopefully, maybe that's it too. Or hopefully somebody will say that. Leela, hopefully you'll say
Oh,
that that's it too.
of course it is.
Validate.
Yes, it is.
So for me, when I just did that, what became apparent is just the aliveness of everything. All the attention went to feeling the chest moving up and down, the sounds outside, the feel of the body. Breathing is just much more like the attention is on this, and thoughts can come up. I didn't see any thoughts this time, but that they're welcome to come up. But there's a sense of like when you said to close the eyes, that's what was felt here was just the sensation of the breathing and the sounds outside the window and the feel of the coolness of the feet. It's so simple. It this is what has been ignored the whole entire time. And yet the other thing too was the identification that when the thoughts come up, well, we got to go do this, and what about tomorrow? It's just thoughts arising, but there's nothing that needs to be done with that. And so that's the freedom. That's the like what Leela was saying, the exhaustion for me was just like there's no one to do that. Like there's no doership here that I'm seeing. It's just sensing and seeing and feeling and smelling and touching. And then thoughts come up, but that's okay. That doesn't mean that I have to do anything about the thoughts. They're just appearing, they're rising and then falling. And this is what I've been ignoring, like what you were sharing, Leela, is it's just so fucking simple. That's it, done, period. It's self looking for itself right here. It's just right here. And believing the identification of the thoughts that would come up and say, well, there's got to be more. And that's even okay too. Like I don't even believe that. There's just no belief in that. It's just talking. But right here, right now, there's no drama right here. There's nothing. And that's and the thoughts are diametrically opposed to beingness, doesn't know beingness, which is what everybody is right here, which is that quiet stillness. That's it.
Yeah,
You're
beautiful, beautiful, Indira. So, how does that feel when Indira says a thought doesn't know you, doesn't see you? No thought has ever known of your existence.
when I hear that, it's like the thoughts are like there's an innocence, they're just there, and they're just there like anything else. And it like a sensation, and it's almost like Indira, when you described it, it's like being mindful, but without trying to be mindful or doing the mindfulness. It's just like it's a natural
Right.
mindfulness without a doer. And so the thoughts are just like the clouds in the sky or the rain falling outside, and that's just what's happening.
Beautiful. Hmm.
Amor said that this meeting is on fire.
It's on fire. Yeah. Well, if this burns in you, if this for me was front and center every moment. This could not be ignored. You know, it just wouldn't go away. So it was either awaken or die. I was just going to keep going till the body took its last breath because I just had to know. You know, for me, it didn't feel optional.
Have you ever experienced that, Indira, or anybody? What
Yeah.
Don was describing with the fear of like the visceral having to control and sort of like that fear
Those are
that.
just thoughts appearing. That's what I got from that what Don so eloquently shared. There were just thoughts appearing for him. That's it. That that I have to control this, and it's just they're just thoughts saying that. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's needed, but it's just claiming something that. So I just when he was sharing that, it was just thoughts that were appearing for him that may have been believed in or not. Either way, it's
Mhm.
fine.
Yeah. Don, was there like a physical sensation that came with that thought or those thoughts or
Oh yeah, it would be a visceral kind of just total contraction.
kind of like an adrenaline kind of?
Yeah, a
Hmm.
contraction with adrenaline,
Hmm.
having to hold on. If I don't hold on, which I'm calling control, I will literally die, or the body or something is saying, you will die. If you do not hold on, if you let go, you will die.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
So I've heard people describe that as a fear barrier. Indira, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Hmm.
So it's just kind of like this, the psyche's throwing a little fit, and the body's like, holy crap, what's going on? And that can sort of be just like leaned into and opened up to. It can be very intense. You'll feel it. You'll feel like, oh my God, this is aliveness because you'll feel it all through your extremities and because it's pure fear. It's terror. Of course, nothing's happening. You're sitting in a chair. Um, Nothing will happen on the other side of that. Nothing, there's nothing to die already. Um, the body will go on. It's so funny how strong the psyche can be, how convincing. Mhm.
And it's innocent. The thoughts I can remember in the beginning, really, whenever the thoughts were starting to arise and it had a sensation to it, what I did in the beginning was I would sit and feel the sensation wherever it was in the body and just put attention to that. And I know this may sound silly, but this is what helped for me in the beginning. Like if you had any, why are you feeling this way? Why are you telling me this? Like talking to it as if it's a child. It's not. And what would come up is, I just want you to be happy. I just want you to feel better. And
Yeah.
so I started seeing all of these thoughts that were coming. Even today it happened too. I'm not going to go into the whole story, but I had some thoughts that were arising that were assumption thoughts, and it was there. I don't even have to go through the process now. I was actually talking to someone back and forth. I was able to see that they were just, I want to say, protecting me. Every single thought that appears to feel contracting or fearful, it's their way of trying to protect, even though there's no one doing that. When I can look at the thoughts in that kind of perspective, it's beautiful because then there's no one trying to resist it. There's no resistance to it. It's more of an acceptance, more of an allowance, and just seeing it for what it is. And then it just dissolves. Because you even said it, Don, one time in one of the meetings, you said that they just wanted to be seen and felt. I remember you saying that one time, and it's true. So tonight it was just seen that there was some fear thoughts coming up for me here, and there was some belief in it for a little bit. And then once I was called out on it, I was like, oh, wow, that's not true. It's just not true. It's just not true. And it's almost like in A Course in Miracles, there's a lesson in there that says, I'm upset because I see something that's not there, and so I was able to catch that. So it was just coming up in its own quirky ways to try to protect, even though there's no one in there. But that seems to be the interpretation or the energy of the thoughts when they come up. I see them as innocent, trying to help or trying to protect, not mean or anything like that, even though it may feel like that, in their own dysfunctional way, trying to help and protect.
Yeah.
I think it's resisting exposure. It's like an avatar or an ego trying to protect itself. When you come to a meeting like this, we're saying that nothing is the way it appears to be. And it says, what are you talking about? The commentators, I would, are you saying that I don't exist? Or are you, this can't be true? In other words, it's fighting for its life. And that's what he's feeling at times. But it's not real. It's like we're talking about thoughts, feelings, emotions. They're not real the way we think they are. They're not facts. But yet I believe they are. And even Vernon Howard had this quote, resistance to the disturbance is the disturbance. I'm resisting accepting what's being taught here, what's being talked about here. And that's why the fear comes up and says,
Wait a second, Manny. Can you say that quote again, please? That sounded very non-dual to me. Go ahead.
res well, it is non-dual, that
Oh,
one.
because you
Re
said Vernon wasn't non-dual. Go ahead.
the majority of, yeah. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong. I could be. Resistance to the disturbance. In other words, whenever I resist anything that's appearing, is the disturbance. It's the very thing. In other words, if I don't accept what's being presented to me, the experience that's being presented to me right now in front of me, I'm resisting it. And that resistance is the pain I feel. That's the that ickiness or stuff, and it blows up to, wow, and now I have a resentment because,
Yeah.
and I'm carrying that with me. I'm harboring these resistance things instead of just being free. That's the thing. If I want to be in control, I'm not free. How could I be free if I'm attached to something that I'm trying to control? I don't know if you follow that or not, but anyway,
That's beautiful. Thank you, Manny.
yeah,
So the feelings and the thoughts.
yeah.
Um, so I'm playing with this. Are they just happening, just like happening, no reason, just feelings, thoughts occurring, or are the feelings and thoughts and contractions occurring with like an intention of showing us where we are not free, like they become teachers showing us, you're I'm showing you where you're not free so that we can then see that and gain our freedom. Does that make any sense or no?
Yes, to me, it's both.
Uh-oh.
I know that sounds insane, but so whatever this is, it's so automatic. It's like a tree. It goes through all the seasons, it bears fruit and does all the things, but it's not doing it. It's just being lived, right? But this beautiful automatic life can have patterns, and those patterns can be very real. And there can be a pattern of resistance that in hindsight, it seemed like an alarm system. And it seemed to be triggered by um, believing in something that wasn't real, just to put it in a simple, pithy little way.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind as you're speaking, Don, is who is learning, who is growing, who is becoming more than they were yesterday. So, not to throw it back, but just that's what's coming up in my own thoughts as I'm considering what's being said.
I love that, Dominic. And you can also add to that, who is suffering?
Mm.
Yeah, and I just want to add that I really own that. I find myself constantly taking notes, collecting quotes, reading books, meditating. I think there is at times a real strong driver to learn and be more and evolve and change and grow. But it's also been very powerful to sit with, like, wait a minute, what is that about? And is there sort of a more expansive way of being present here?
Mm.
I, I think, Leela, you made a good point. And Don, to your question about thoughts, I also think it's both, because in that freedom, it's innocent thoughts, it's just showing up. And within that, it may serve to be a kind of a gift. And it's paradoxical, but it's free to be just that innocent, and yet it may serve to be a teaching, a gift, something like that.
Mhm. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
That's like the deepening here for me. It's like this year, last year, and going into this year is just every day, what looking at certain belief systems that still comes up here, what am I believing it to be that feels solid? And then once I can see through that, it's once I can see through the belief system and then what's behind it, which is absolutely nothing. Um, it's like calling itself. It's it's um it's longing for itself right there. And then that falls away. And then what there is just simpleness of this.
Mm.
That there was really no drama or anything,
Mhm.
and so it's like an ongoing thing here.
Mm. I
Yeah.
love that, Indira. A lot of speakers don't talk about the messiness on the other, whatever the other side is, right? They don't talk about the things that we don't prefer can still arise.
Yeah. There's a great relief, though, when I accept instead of resist. When I actually see it differently, and my attitude changes towards whatever it's resisting. It's almost like a shift entirely where thought is no longer dominating. The story's no longer dominating because it's almost like the seeing is the doing. You you see it and it automatically just fades, and and you're content again. You're just content with being instead of dwelling on something that you think you have the power to control and change what's actually being presented to you. The universe presented it to me, and here I am, this self-centered ego wanting to get my way and not wanting it to be any other way, and I'm just trying to pushing it, and so that engagement causes me that friction, and now I'm the victim. I'm the victim of thoughts and feelings and the world, as opposed to just being okay with everything because it's already here right now. The freedom's here. What instead of engaging in the thought that comes up, I could do, I could use practical, thoughts are great for practical things, but the majority of the things you don't even have to think about them.
That's it. That's
You
it.
don't even have to think of.
Yes, that's it.
To be the tree, you know.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
love that point you made, Leela, about life just living through it.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
It's the difference between watching a movie that you believe you're the actual character in it or just watching a movie.
Yeah.
Like that's really the difference. I mean, to me, that's a really accurate analogy of the
Yeah.
difference.
Michael-Leela. Yeah.
I love
And yet,
I love this meeting, this
yeah,
particular meeting, yes. And these meet it's like it's like a remembering who I am by being in this meeting and having all these little bits of wisdom coming at me or that I'm hearing. And you know, so so is it just happening or is it a teaching for me? Whatever it is, you know, what it gets down to. Okay, what it gets down to for me is to say, oh, so hard. You know, I love you guys. That ain't easy for me to say. Let me tell you. But that's what it is. That's it's like I love you guys, and from the heart,
Mhm.
and like a real thank you, like thank you for for speaking truth, right? For speaking truth and without trying to control me. And so I really really appreciate it.
Oh,
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey, Don.
we love you too, Don.
You know,
Don's a good guy.
hey, it's good to see a non in a body. I don't haven't seen you for years in a body, so it's good to see you, man.
All the best good guys have a little villain in them.
And then there was Michael.
Yeah, this becomes you can start to notice how effortless everything happens by itself. That can be noticed. The wind, the rain, the seasons, the temperature, all of it. And it's that attempt to control. You know, I almost encourage it. Like, Don, go the other way. Just try and control as much shit as you can. You know, just be a control monster, like a freak. And you know what I mean? It's like because the futility, like that's kind of what was seen here, was the utter futility. Oh, yeah, Leela, the grace of futility.
I used to do a lot of praying, and one of the things I prayed was show me what I'm not able to see about myself presently.
Beautiful.
And always and hold on to your chair. At first, after a while, you got used to it, but at first, hold on to your chair because you'll be shown things that you didn't want to see.
Yeah, God works in mysterious ways.
That's for sure.
Yeah,
So for sure.
And that's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's embarrassment that comes up here when it's seen. It's like, but it's okay. They're like what Michael Jeffries was saying. It's like it just becomes effortless. And Manny was saying about he was saying something. Um, oh, getting tired. I'm starting to forget things, but he said something that I really, really resonated with. But you know, it's like starting all over again, even though there's no one starting over. It's just it's once it's seen and felt and seen for what it is, it's there's nothing to be done. It's just seen and then just, okay, I'm gonna go do the dishes, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's
Like
very,
full circle.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like you can finally just be human.
Mm.
And then just be there with the dishes.
Except this time the dishes is a miracle.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just mystery. Everything is mystery. Appearing is what it seems to be appearing as. But it doesn't, it's still mystery.
Mm.
So even the feeling of mine, this is my problem, my pain, my sorrow, that's mystery appearing as your sorrow. The voice in your head is the mystery. Thoughts are the mystery, appearing as thoughts.
Michael, I did want to say again with Sailor Bob, bringing that back up, that his humbleness was just there. I had the privilege of going to science and duality conferences for maybe 3 or 4 times. And it became like a smorgasbord of teachers from all over the world.
Mhm.
And and some of them were just mean. I walked into one of them, and one of the Indian men were just screaming at this lady because she couldn't get Satchitananda. You know, he kept on saying, "You don't have it together. You got to have this." And it's just amazing how the teachers are not really teachers. They're just not. And some are. Some can give you, and you resonate with them. That's the difference, probably.
Well, that's a good one to end on because this really is all about resonance. At the end of the day, it isn't about the words.
No.
Yeah, words are just playing catch up, doing their best.
Commentators.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was something about all is this that resonated here, even if I couldn't see it. I didn't know how all is this, but something in here went, yeah.
Mm.
Any last comments or questions before we close out this evening?
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. You guys were
We're,
on fire.
we're free, we've always been.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Love you
Thank you,
too.
Bye.
everybody. Dominic, Leela, Manny, Indira, Addie, Don, Harvey, Anon, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everyone.
Bye bye.
Sure.